Okay, let's switch to Michael Cohen, star witness of this Trump trial in New York. And late
Man, that
Thursday,
word star's doing a lot of work in that sentence.
a lot of work. Although it came out, we talked about this on the show yesterday, it came out that in that $50,000 he paid to this group Redfinch to get some good polling for Donald Trump, what he really wanted was a hashtag Women for Michael Cohen website and Twitter account. And they kept putting out how hot he was and how he looked just like who was the famous actor? Oh, I can't remember. He's a pathetic man. That's what he wanted. A fake women espousing their adoration of him. Andy Garcia, that's who it was. Okay, here's what happened late Thursday. Trump's defense attorney really zeroed in on what was kind of the kill. I mean, it wasn't on a point that mattered, but it wasn't really a jugular moment as you saw the on-ramp. But the off-ramp, the defense lawyer did have Michael Cohen's jugular in his hand, and even Anderson Cooper saw it and talked about it. So it was a great moment for Team Trump. Here's what happened. Michael Cohen had said that he called Donald Trump's bodyguard, and he asked to speak to Trump, and he did after he made the payment to Stormy Daniels. And then he told Trump all about it. Remember, Trump is denying that he knew about this. He says this is a Michael Cohen operation. He says, no, that's a lie. I told Trump about it. I called his bodyguard, Keith Schiller, and he put me on the phone with Trump, and it happened in October before the election. It happened. So the lawyer for Trump gets up there, and he sets the stage by saying, you had a series of harassing phone calls at or about this same time, right? Yes, I did. And it turned out that you found out who was behind it. It was a 14-year-old boy, because he had forgotten to block the number on at least one of the calls, right? Right. And you threatened that you were going to go to the Secret Service about him, and he begged you not to, saying, I'm a 14-year-old boy. And you said, you better loop your parents in ASAP. Correct? Correct. It was within moments of that Cohen called Trump's bodyguard and spoke with him for a matter of minutes. It was just after 8 on October 24th, 2016. He said, Cohen did, this is a way of getting a hold of Trump because he knew that Keith Schiller, the bodyguard, would be with Trump. And Blanche, Trump's lawyer, cited text message records showing Cohen messaged the bodyguard at 7:48 p.m. about the harassing caller. Okay? This is a big phone call. We're supposed to be telling Trump, Stormy, paid her, we're good. Instead, he shows 7:48 p.m. that day, Cohen texted the bodyguard about his own problem, his 14-year-old tormentor. Okay? He says, Cohen texts Schiller, who can I speak to about harassing calls to my cell in office? Blanche then cited phone records showing Schiller calling Cohen and leaving a voicemail at 8:01 p.m., following text message stating, call me at 8:02 p.m. Cohen then called Schiller's number. The conversation lasted 1 minute and 36 seconds, show the phone records. Todd Blanche said Cohen's claim that he was talking to Trump in that 1 minute and 36 seconds about the Daniels deal, quote, was a lie because you were actually talking to Mr. Schiller about getting harassing phone calls from a 14-year-old. Cohen, this is amazing, Dan. Part of it was about the phone calls, but I knew that Keith was with Mr. Trump at the time, and it was more than potentially just this. Potentially. It was more than potentially just this. I'm almost done. Blanche, his voice growing louder, was incredulous. This is from the Associated Press, was incredulous. You had enough time in that 1 minute and 36 seconds to update Mr. Schiller about all the problems you were having with this harassing phone call and also update President Trump on the status of the Stormy Daniels situation? Cohen responded, that was my belief. Based on the records he was able to review that he said had refreshed his memory. The answer was, quote, yes, I believe I was telling the truth.
Which is a very lawyerly answer.
I believe
Megyn,
I believe I was.
You and I have been immersed in the legal system. I am not an attorney. However, 15 years of my life spent around criminals and lawyers and courtrooms, federal and city and state. I'm not new to this. Let me just say first, by the way, Michael Cohen trying to get people to promote him looking like Andy Garcia. Like, I look like Cary Grant if he looks like Andy Garcia. Like, that's like the dumbest thing can you imagine paying people to, I mean, you look at him like Andy Garcia is an actually good looking guy. Michael Cohen is not. I say that's objectively
I'm thinking
true.
like, who else could, maybe Chaz Palminteri? I don't know if you really wanted to stretch, but no, not Andy Garcia.
Chaz not that long ago.
He's a great guy.
Damn good looking guy. He's a great, that restaurant Chaz's in Manhattan is incredible. And let me tell you something, he don't look like Michael Cohen, but is this guy, right? Is this guy the most unlikable witness you've ever seen? That whole exchange with the 14-year-old, I took interest in because why he thinks the Secret Service would help him when he's not a protectee was just bizarre. I mean, we're talking about a narcissist. But second, as you know from reading through most of the case, this was just one of about five or six different episodes that Todd Blanche just eviscerated this guy's credibility on. I mean, Megyn, in court, one of the worst things that can happen to you is for you to have to debate yourself. When you're contradicted by your own voice, video or audio, you'll just watch the jurors. They're typically like, damn, that was good. So at one point, Cohen says something really simple. Oh, I never met Alvin Bragg. You know, the prosecutor, of course. That's not a hard thing. You either met him or you didn't. It's not a marginal case. You didn't kind of meet him. And then they play Michael Cohen's own podcast where he's like, I sat for hours with Alvin Bragg. If you're sitting there as a jurist, I'm talking about I can't get in their heads. I don't know if they're Democrats or not. I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're a reasonable jurist, because all they need is a reasonable doubt, this guy's done right there. Like, he doesn't even know he met the prosecutor. Of course he knows. He just spoke about it in the podcast. He doesn't know a conversation he had with Trump about a 14-year-old who he considered such a threat. He had to call Trump's bodyguard, Schiller. This is a mess. And one of the things that we learned early on as the feds, on the Fed side, because we were deeper in the court system there. In the city, nothing goes to trial. Everybody's just bled out. But in the Fed system, a lot of stuff goes to trial. And I've been through quite a few of them. Is 90% of the game is not the facts. It's just not. You know the old adage, you get the facts, pound the facts. If not, pound the table. It's just not. Court is not about facts 90% of the time. I wish it were. Civil court is, contractual court. Criminal court, if someone's going to trial, they're just trying to make this guy somewhat likable. And you go back and look at the research on this, it's conclusive, you know? There was that case a while back with the two drug dealers. The identical case. They're both accused of the same thing and the same crime. One gets like 20 years, one guy gets 5. And when they asked the jurors later, they're like, yeah, the one guy was just likable. That's not a reason. And the thing about Cohen, the problem they have is not only is he a convicted perjurer, he's now been eviscerated his credibility in front of every branch of government in this courtroom multiple times, and he just comes off unlikable. That's why the 14-year-old story, the story about the women for Michael Cohen, that's not irrelevant stuff. People are probably like, well, what does that have to do with the law? This case has nothing to do with the law. The jury's trying to determine who do they dislike more, because it's a blue state. Do they dislike Donald Trump or Michael Cohen? And Blanche, I thought today, when that testimony happened, did an absolutely masterful job of eviscerating this guy's credibility and likability. The likability thing is critical.
He on that subject of likability, he zeroed in on something we've been discussing here, which is what kind of an attorney tapes his client surreptitiously. Yeah. The reason we've heard Trump talking to Cohen about the payoff, not to Stormy, which is at issue in this case, but to Karen McDougal, another woman who was trying to shake him down for money, or actually, let me correct that. She was going to strike a deal with AMI, American Media, National Enquirer, to write stories for them about fitness in exchange for not, giving the story to anybody else about her love affair with Trump. So she says, the reason that's on tape is because Michael Cohen taped his own client in going back and talking to him about how he buried it. I mean, it's really it is beyond the pale for a lawyer to do that to a client. And Blanche zeroed in on it on Thursday and said, this is from audio from a September 2016 conversation. Blanche, you understand that it's not ethical for a lawyer to record a conversation with their client. Cohen agrees and then adds that recording a client conversation is permitted under the crime fraud exception to the attorney-client privilege rules, meaning it's not privileged if you and I are talking about committing a crime together. But the hush money payment is not a crime. It's not. So whatever. Okay. So then Blanche says, just so I understand, you surreptitiously recorded your client so you could play a privileged recorded communication between you and your client with a third party? Cohen, that's correct. He admits it. He wanted to play it for somebody else.
He admits it. And Megyn, this is so sleazy. Again, let's separate legality from likability. okay? The likability thing is huge in this case. It is super important. I mean, look at the data on parolees, right? Parolees, if you get in front of your parole board after lunch, you got a greater chance of getting parole because everybody's in a good mood. Michael Cohen is putting everyone in a bad mood. No one, not a jurist, not a Democrat, not a Republican, wants to be surreptitiously taped by someone they place their trust in, no less an attorney. Having said that, this is viewed on so unfavorably that in the state of Florida and Maryland, 2 states I lived in, it is patently illegal to tape someone without both parties consenting. New York, so I believe, is a one-party consent state, meaning if you consent and you're on the phone,
that's right,
you can record it. But that is viewed so, that's considered so shady that some states have said you can't even do that. You need
but a
this
lawyer
guy's
to a
permission.
client. If you're my client, I have a fiduciary obligation to you. I have an ethical obligation to protect you.
There is no legal or likability explanation. Why? I argued this. This came out, I believe it was the prosecution too, who introduced this. And I'm sitting there on my show, and like you, I'm like, having sat through trial, I'm like, who the hell thought this was a good idea?
As we draw near another critical election, it's not just about casting your vote. It's about elevating your voice. I want to tell you about the Association of Mature American Citizens, or AMAC. It's more than just a senior discount org. They unite like-minded patriots committed to preserving our cherished values and actively opposing the leftist agenda. As AMAC's membership grows, Washington listens. Every new member strengthens this movement. If you love America, check out amac.us/Megyn and consider becoming a 4-year member for just $30. AMAC membership gives you access to the AMAC magazine, free Social Security and Medicare guidance, money-saving discounts, trusted news, sweepstakes, and more. Take advantage of their election year sale, 4 years for just $30 by joining the over 2 million members and get your voice heard. Join now at amac.us/Megyn. That's amac.us/MEGYN. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.